Lois, I am so thrilled that I get to chat with you about your career, the changes that you've gone through,
Yeah,
and what you are doing now.
I know.
So,
I'm excited too.
so the first question that I have for you is, and I ask this for a lot of folks, is that before you did this program with Worcester State and with Stack Education, did you ever do any other online program?
No online programming, not was way out of my line. No, I hadn't done
Okay.
any online programming.
So this was brand new. What drew you to this program?
I think it's my love for data.
Mhm.
I think it's the fact that data can tell stories. It's fascinating just to see numbers and then be able to pull out insight from numbers. And I wanted to really know more about it.
What kind of background do you think people should have when they enter a program like this?
Any background,
Mm.
because I feel if possible, anybody should do it or everybody should do it because it's not geared to a specific field because data is everywhere. You find yourself, no matter what position you are, you find yourself with some kind of data. And if you want to be efficient in what you are doing, I think it helps to be able to pull some insight out of the data that's right in front of you.
Let's talk about the time commitment and the schedule of this course. Now, can you think back on when you were evaluating whether you're going to do this program or even like the first week? What is the reality in terms of the time commitment and the schedule?
I think for me, it had to fit within my family commitment. So the fact that it was an evening class really worked well for me. You would have to be prepared to learn a little bit, to put in more hours.
Mhm.
So the hours I would say would be the class, if the class is 3 hours, you'd have to think of putting in additional same number of hours extra for that particular class or for that particular topic. For me, an understanding or enjoying a topic is based on how I understand it. So if I don't understand it really well, then I would say I don't like this. So for me to understand it really well, then I have to put in more effort to read more about it.
You put that really nicely, Lois. And this is actually a really nice, very easy way to think about it is for over how many hours you're in the classroom, you're saying for you, you had to put in an equal number of hours outside the classroom to study whatever was taught that day in class. And that it's just not enough to go to class and be
Mhm.
there. Like there has to be work done outside of it.
I mean, life is all about choices. So it's possible for anyone who makes the decision to do it. You've already made that decision to enter. So just make the decision to put in that extra effort so you can understand it well and enjoy using it when you leave.
Why don't we talk about so I know your history. Do you want to actually share some of your history before you joined Stack? Because your career is pretty cool. And also, like your story, I think resonates with a lot of folks, especially a lot of working parents.
Yeah, so I spent quite a number of years, maybe about 10 years in the transfer agency. And I had to take some time off, take about more than 8 years off to take care of my children. So going back to the workforce, and this is where STAR comes in. So going back into the workforce, I had to, because I have an engineering background, I have my bachelor's in civil engineering, and then I have my master's in information systems. I had to pick, based on my background, pick something that I really love to do. And so that's where I decided to go into data science and data analytics. So yes, I had spent 8 years out of the workforce, nothing to do with tech completely. I did have a CNA background, and I did help friends with preparing taxes as well. So going back to the workforce, I decided to go into data analytics, which was completely different from anything I had done. So it's not impossible for a mother to do. or
Mhm.
it's not impossible for somebody who hasn't been in tech to go back and do it. It's not. It's just a mindset. It's just a decision that this sounds interesting and you want to do it. I
Mhm.
think that's the biggest thing.
That's great advice, Lois. And your story very much, I was gonna say, I think resonates with so many people who've taken time off, whether it's to care for family, for children, for aging parents,
Yeah.
or who've just, hit on some hard times and haven't been able to
Yeah.
find the right kind of job and employment. And so it's good to know that, stories like yours exist to give that kind of hope. What do you think um, people don't know about you, or that's surprising that you would want people to know?
Very interesting. Um, that I love to cook. I think my friends always think that because when I talk about being able to study, it doesn't matter what you're doing. If something doesn't work out, that doesn't mean that that's the end of the world. We all have many interests, so just pick another one and something will work out. I think that mindset makes them think that I'm not the home person. So when they hear that I love to cook, I think that's what surprises them. But
That's your
otherwise,
that you love to cook and that you enjoy it,
yeah,
that even though you've been very focused, I think it sounds like you've been a very academic, kind of
yeah,
professional minded
yeah,
person, and then you have this interest for cooking.
yeah,
I love that. I
yeah.
love that. Let's see. Another question I have for you is, and we've touched on this a couple of times, but what advice would you give to someone um, who is dissatisfied with where they are professionally?
I don't think we are born to have one focus or just one interest. So if the person who is bored or hasn't or doesn't like what they're doing, you definitely have other interests that you haven't tapped into yet,
Mhm.
or you might think that you cannot make a career out of it. So it's looking in within and seeing what other things you can do.
How about this? What advice would you give to your younger self?
Going back to interest, so my background looks wild, and actually that was one thing I was worried about going to look for a job, because I have civil engineering in there, I have information systems in there, I have health in there, I did post-bac in pre-med, I have all kinds of, it's all over the place, and that's one thing I was worried about. So my younger self, I think I would pick one.
Mm,
I, I would tell myself to pick one um, earlier than later. The 8 years that I was completely out in the
mm,
tech, I could have myself taken the initiative to
oh,
do something online, to get
mhm,
into that even before, like
mm,
not wait till the end of the, because my intention was to wait till my little one is able to do stuff for himself before getting back into the workforce.
yeah.
So I'm thinking I could have done that earlier and not wait this long.
My last question is, for someone who is at a professional inflection point, what advice do you have for them so they can navigate this inflection point successfully?
It's basically where you are and where you want to get to. Because if you move too quickly and not consider so many things, you might decide you make the wrong choice. So think about where you've been and why you want to go where you're going. Like I think that's the most important. Are you going to go and look back and say you wish you hadn't? And that's the painful part. So when you are sure of um, the next step, when you are sure of
Mhm.
the step you're taking, because you've considered that where you were is not where you wanted to be. I think it makes the change easier. But if you don't consider everything, if you are doing it maybe just for money or just the fact that you heard that it was good, then that might not work. It's you are going to be in that role, or you are going to do that. So you have to consider everything in the past to be able to make that decision well, but not based on what others are saying, or not based on anything else but your background. Being in the tech, you make this amount of money. That's not the only thing for you to make the decision to be in there,
Yeah.
because there's work involved as well. So you have to have the interest and the mindset that based on my past, or based on what I'm interested in, this is where I want to go.
That's powerful. That it's not going to be enough. The financial motivation is not going to be
No.
enough. Like there has to be a much deeper motivation.
Yeah.
Lois, thank
Yeah.
you so much.
You're welcome.
This was
You're
so
welcome.
wonderful. I'm so glad that you were able to share your your experience, your advice with folks who are trying to figure out what's next. And for a lot of people thinking about doing a program in data science and analytics, I would say a lot of them don't realize that it can be applicable across so many industries and so many functions.
Yeah.
Um, so it's really wonderful to hear that from someone like yourself.
And hopefully that helps, because I mean they will really find the value in being able to use data to answer all their questions. So hopefully,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lois.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.